Okay, for everybody, the recording has started. This is the mock monthly meeting. The date is December 15th. And we can just go ahead and jump right in. The first item on agenda is the mock charter that we have kind of collectively been working on. If anybody has not had a chance to look at it, I will add the link to the chat. We'd like to try to kind of get everybody's feedback on that and get that public like as soon as possible.
So what's our deadline?
Today.
Really? I haven't even seen this yet.
I think that, so I would love to have this, let's call it like the second week of January, realistically. But I would love to try to get us to a place of, if people have some time where they are, can actually read through. My goal in this is that, and again, appreciate everybody who's made contributions so far. I want to get it to a place where it is a somewhat professional governmental type of language where we're really trying to reduce as much ambiguity as possible around here's why this committee was created, here's the mandate, here's the power that the committee holds, here's the process for adding new folks, here's how long they serve, everything that's kind of really around kind of membership, voting, if somebody needs to be removed from the committee, what that process looks like, that we default to, kind of like what does consensus look like in this committee as far as voting on approvals, really trying to find that. Brad, thank you very much for popping in. I know you add a lot around kind of the criteria, so that, kind of ironing that out, if other folks can take a look at that and see if we're all fairly aligned there. But just a combination of, again, like the right content, the right language. This is incredibly helpful because it's also going to probably serve as a framework for the next bunch of committees that we stand up. So appreciate everybody being thoughtful around this and just trying to think about what are the, again, look at this try to come at that from a community member who's freshly looking at the mock and wants to understand everything around the committee in general. So appreciate the contributions so we can finalize this for January. So that's my 2 cents.
So you're saying January 14th?
That would be, I would love to, I don't know. Ambitiously, I would have loved to have shared it on the community call at the end of this month, but I think with Christmas and the break, it's just not going to be possible. I'd love to have something that we can publish, yes, by January 14th, and then we can always, when we do the mock update on the January community call, let everybody know that this document now exists and remind everybody that, here's the framework, here's exactly what mock does not do. If you're looking to join, here's how. But I think that will really be helpful for adding a lot more formalization to this group here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there also might be there's some alternatives in the document. You might have to go through and figure out what is the appropriate, voting or deciding on the bullet points, because as you read it, you'll see there's different alternatives and ideas.
Yeah, I think we can either comment in the doc. We can always do async on the mock channel as well. But I would love for this to be a little bit more driven by you guys versus DY. But obviously, I'm more than happy to weigh in, provide opinions, as I've commented in the doc already. But yeah, Jeremy, thank you for pointing that out.
Cool. Next item.
All right, then the next item kind of correlates with the mock charter, is the discussion of changing the name from the Manufacturing Oversight Committee to something that's a little bit more fitting for the scope of the mock.
Yeah, and I think I had a comment on this in the charter doc, is I would like to try to have a perception that this limits the scope to that it's around miners specifically in hotspots, where that is, LoRaWAN, 5G, like whatever ultimately, and again, that's kind of where the committee is going to have to expand thinking about those different networks, but that this committee is really focused on miners versus manufacturing of any device that's using the network, and the fact that this is a technically focused committee and it is not weighing in on commercial practices. I think that if we can cover that without a mouthful, that would be ideal. So.
Yeah, I strongly feel it'd be a great idea. It will help some people. There's a lot of people who still feel that the mock is just in charge and is Helium. They think Helium approves the miners. I think mock has contracts with the manufacturers. There's a lot of thoughts about what they think the mock does. And really changing the name might be the first thing to helping people understand. We just set a technical standard, very low bar, especially for just keeping the network, keeping proof of coverage working. And we don't have a lot of resources and time as currently formed to do all of the other consumer protection things and keeping up on just a lot of the stuff that happens when you become a commercial product. That we're hoping that the market can solve a lot of those things. People can really use word of mouth and things like that. So that's at least the idea behind this. I don't know, should we do it now? Still want to talk about it? Any strong feelings particularly, I think would be. And if you're all able to see the agenda, to see like the wording, like one suggestion is that it become the MTOC, Manufacturers Technical Oversight Committee.
For me, it sounds good.
Yeah, for me, it sounds good also.
If we try to specify, we could put something like hotspot manufacturer technical oversight committee, but I think it starts to be a mouthful. So MTOC would already narrow our scope of action enough to avoid any confusion.
I think
there will still be confusion.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something that needs to be, I mean, put it this way, this is more of a, I wanted it to be a top agenda, just like as a flag. I don't think that we have to, this is again, something that completely could be done asynchronous with everybody. Again, just like make sure you put it in the thoughts of like, hey, here's what I think would be an ideal name. And then we just, just get to
maybe just a I don't have any answer, but I'll pose this. And should we rephrase it more towards what we're really doing is making sure only kind of approved and authenticated devices can access the network. I mean, it's kind of the scope of what we're doing, right? We're and I'm trying to distance ourselves from being a product certification body, because that's what we don't want to do.
Yeah.
So is there a way to rethink the word that we're using, manufacturers, oversight committee, to be something more specific about the Helium network, hardware device authentication, committee or something like that? Or I don't know if that can make sense, but just food for thought.
Yeah, the only thing that, and again, I'm not trying to keep playing devil's advocate, but I feel like that a lot of, at least within the community, device tends to refer to,
we'll say hotspot.
Yeah, so that's kind
of
where
the Helium hotspot, authentication committee or something like that.
Or the Helium audit committee, or
yeah, there you go. I just feel like when we say manufacturers, people assume that's like other manufacturer organizations, that it creates this broad expectation of, product standards and functionality and all these kinds of things. It's really not what we're doing.
Call it the Helium Gateway Audit Committee.
Yeah. Helium network. I mean, we're really here to protect the network. I mean, I think Jeremy has said that many times. I agree with him. That is why we're here. We're here to make sure that the network's protected from unauthorized hardware attacks, right?
Patrick, what did you say just now? I missed that.
I said Helium Gateway Audit Committee.
So my feeling is let's come up with a few things that people feel good about. We can do a straw poll in Discord if people want to
sure
have more days to think about it. Then we can just say, okay, here are the top three, and that's it.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly.
Yeah, let's make that happen also by the 14th.
Yeah, I would love to have that. I mean, that definitely should be within the charter for sure. So
yeah, so maybe both of those things together happen.
I got somebody here that wants to be a member of the committee, I think.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
it's my 7-month-old standard poodle puppy, and she wants to play.
At first, I thought you were pulling out a jacket.
Yeah, no.
And productivity drops to 0. By the way, sorry to interrupt, but Jess would also love to. Can you turn on and do a quick introduction to the committee here so everybody knows who you are as well? Clarissa did hers earlier.
Sure, give me 1 second. I was just finishing a bite of food.
Yeah. You can say off camera.
Yeah, so if you just want to make sure everybody knows, new DYT members here, and that you guys are, building up context on what's going on with the mock, or soon to not be mock, but.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you all. Jess, I just joined the team last week, and I've done some grant work in the past. And sorry, I just caught me off the spot. And I have, sorry, starting over. I did grant work in the past working with open data and doing data journalism. So I got a grant for the LenFest Labs, which is an accelerator program. And then after that grant, the team that I'd put together, we had done some work for the actual the LenFest Labs. When they were done, they were so happy with what we did. And after that project finished up, I ended up working for a large grant giving organization to help them rebuild and start using better tools that were custom and move away from their SaaS product. And so I helped them rebuild their grant giving tools from scratch. And it was a really good company to work for, and enjoyed that. Yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of Helium. In the last, I don't know, 9 months, I've been working on deploying Helium hotspots all over my area, and got super involved in the community, and just love what's going on here. And I'm super excited to be part of the team and meet all of you guys.
Awesome. Great to have you on DY.
Welcome.
Scott, I think kind of, oh, go ahead. I was wondering, as we get more people brought on to DY, like the committee, we get overloaded sometimes. There's so many things that we need, and I think DY has a lot of resources we can lean on. So I'd love to learn, everyone's little things, and we might like resolve to say, hey, we would really love so and so at DY to tell us what the latest news on X or Y is. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where, so, Clarissa and Jess are both going to be focused a lot on kind of like ecosystem growth and grant side. I mean, where they're going to need input from this committee is, like, where are the, where are the bottlenecks, where are the infrastructure issues, where do we need more things that are, where can we have people making contributions to network that's going to support things related to kind of manufacturers, miners, and whatnot. Like, obviously, we've got the 2 HIP-22 implementations that we're hopeful are going to be successful. So they'll obviously be looking for feedback from this committee. But with respect to like other resources on DY, yeah, I mean, still staffing up. So to the degree that there are things that, I mean, right now the focus is so much on kind of like ecosystem growth. I'm bringing on somebody else that's going to be more of a community manager / like DevRel. But yeah, another thing that's honestly not totally resolved is if we want to have like a full-time, part-time person that's kind of like LoRaWAN specialist, 5G specialist. We're probably going to need to have like kind of network specialists in the team. Just haven't opened up any JDs in those just yet, but something that I'm thinking about.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, I keep thinking, Calissa, you're raising your hands. You're clapping. All right, perfect. No more.
All right, are we ready to move on to the next item?
Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is the ethics doc. I think that everybody here has already had a chance to kind of look at it. If not, I will also put the link in the chat. One thing that we kind of want to discuss is, so we have this ethic doc that everybody has been able to like take a look at. We've also sent it out to the manufacturers to take a look at it. I haven't seen any like suggestions come in.
We have a suggestion.
We do have a suggestion.
Yeah, or 2 from Codex. Nothing major.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the main question is if manufacturers do not follow this like ethic doc for the community's sake, what kind of, what is the consequences for that? What can the community do? We have like something to, I guess, kind of back up this document.
Well, so in the charter doc, we talk about what we can do, right? Which is ultimately we can only suspend their access to the key to the onboarding server. But in there, we also, I think there was some verbiage I tried to put in there that said that we can basically recommend, corrective actions to the manufacturers as a first step, before we suspend their key as kind of an initial, kind of response to infraction. So it was kind of modeled after what we did with so I would say that there's some language in that charter if people want to review it, edit it, add to it as a reference.
And the ethics doc, if I recall correctly, when we decided to move on with it, was mainly to be used to make sure that the manufacturers could not use plausible deniability. Oh, I didn't know, we were not aware, and make sure that they made an official, explicit commitment to the community to abide by those rules. I don't think that we at this stage can implement consequences for breaking each part or for the violation. It's more as a preemptive or dissuasive measure for their official commitment to abiding by those rules. If there is any blatant violation, the only thing we can do is use the hammer. But I would keep that for a case-by-case analysis of the situation and let the community itself try to start implementing all the other measures we've already discussed as a quality seal or recommendation, commission, whatever, that could help enforce any kind of action. But I don't think we should be comfortable right now starting to police at each violation or how far a manufacturer goes in fulfilling all the points in the ethics, because the ethics doc, it's all the correct actions, all the correct behavior, but policing it would go outside our mandate, I think.
Scott?
So
Good hand up.
I think that for something like this, now that I'm just, it didn't occur to me earlier, I think we could just probably have some sort of catch-all in the ethics document that effectively says that, any blatant disregard for these guidelines set forth by the community. Again, I think that so much of this is that we want to make this around community, not this committee. So if we say that there's any blatant disregard of this document as set forth by the Helium community, the Helium community may take actions to remove, block, like we kind of have some very, very general catch-all that the community may take some actions to, again, like, let's just figure out what the general language is. And there could be damages to you from the community. I mean, just kind of like leave it there of like, there could be something that follows on this. We don't have to specify exactly what it is, but just enough that manufacturers feel like there is consequence and the community has the ability to take some action. We haven't determined what that is yet, but the community has the right to take some action. That's all.
But is it really the community through the DY? Should we make that? I mean, because the community can't really directly take the action. The DY represents the community is maybe the message.
Yeah, I think that it would be probably something that the community would
raise to the DY.
Yeah, the community would raise, propose, vote, and then DY would take that action. I think that's probably the right order of operations.
We got so many hands raised. Just do them in order, Nick.
It's funny how I saw the hands pop up there. We've talked about this before it got shut down. I'd like to at least revisit and thought the idea of making manufacturers stake HNT, because that would be the other way to say, like, all right, if you're screwing this up, then you just lose whatever the stake is. And I know there's reasons to not do that, but I think one of the things we got to think about is if the only tool we have is like, oh, you can't onboard new miners, it just makes everything we do not very strong, like almost totally unenforceable. And I think there needs to be another lever that we can pull, that maybe it only comes from a community vote. So you think about Codex or whoever does something bad, you put it to a vote to the community, and DY is the one who actually, executes the act, but it came, to Scott's point, from the community. So there just needs to be another tool that we can use to crank down on people who are acting poorly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like a jury model. Felipe.
Yeah, one thing that just came up to my mind, and when I was hearing Scott about this being a community document and not a mock document, I think after we wrap it up, our version of what the ethics doc should contain, I think we should, to make it actually become a community document, we should put it up for a vote.
Sophie?
If the community approves. That's me, sorry. Sophie, you are on
Yeah,
mute.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually Zoom has gotten smarter. You are muted now. So I feel that the mock charter should come from the mock, not the community. But I also think we have a case study right now where we do have a manufacturer who is, according to the community, not following the rules set forth in the ethics document. And all we have is a dumpster fire of GitHub related complaints. And so all of this is to say that if we are gonna say it's for the community to take action, we need to be specific about what those actions are. And if those actions are boycott, we should say that and provide a place for people to talk about it. Because this going on in GitHub is also uncomfortable because it makes Helium and the DY look, even though it's not correct to say that, look like we're not doing anything. It's not in our mandate to do something, but it also reflects poorly. And it's quite uncomfortable actually to like read through all of this stuff. When
Regarding
this
that,
exact,
yeah.
this exact thing that we're talking about is meant to stop it. Okay, done.
Yeah.
So actually,
I have heard from Helium. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to make sure we
Helium's
get
aware of
context,
it.
Clarissa and Jess, on what we're talking
Okay.
about. Just very quickly. So since you both know, this is actually good because it's good to have more brains thinking about how we confront this issue. So this committee has a mandate that is mostly technical in nature of hotspots and manufacturers are make sure this is a real corporation within corporation docs and helping to source a lot of that information to display that out to the public. Making sure that their radio is actually certified by the right governing bodies. So if you're selling into the United States, do you have FCC approval? Does your the miner that the manufacturer is intending to sell, does it have the key set up appropriately? Is it secure? Does it talk to the blockchain? Can it actually perform its functions related to POC appropriately? That's kind of like that's the extent of it. It's really technical in nature of like, does this hardware work and is it compliant with other governmental regulators that we don't want them kind of butting up against. So what's happened a lot over the last several months, and a lot of this is just the fact that it's a young network, it's growing, it's permissionless, which is completely different from traditional kind of wireless processes, is we have manufacturers who come in, they sell hotspots. I'm not naming any names, but some have had a lot of community blowback, mostly around their commercial operations, around delayed shipments, not responding to support emails, things that in our view, and we've said this on a town hall, it's been discussed in Discord, that it's outside the mandate of this committee. And also as the foundation, we don't want to pick and choose favorites on who are the best manufacturers and whatnot. It needs to be an open market, just let the market decide who's good, who's bad. We've tried to make some suggestions out to the community to say, does somebody want to stand up the Better Business Bureau or a review system? And obviously those things need to be further unpacked, but the concern is as these complaints keep coming in to the mock, to DY, to Helium, and it's not that we're ignoring them, but it sets a very, very bad precedent for any of those organizations to be the arbiter, judge, and jury for who gets to sell into the network and who doesn't. We're creating like elements of censorship and blocking and centralization, which is really bad for the network long-term, which needs to be as open as possible. So one thing that we've really struggled to think about and how to direct the community is, what is the best way for folks to actually assess existing manufacturers, new manufacturers? It really is buyer beware. Like that's the thing that we can't really scream from rooftops of, look, like you're getting paid back for this thing within weeks. Like if you're an early adopter with any product anywhere, Clarissa, I'm sure you can feel this from Kickstarter days. You're taking a risk investing in something where the return is unclear, the quality of the product is unclear, and there's high reward for you investing in that. But you have to understand that like there may be commercial problems that come up with that, whether it's the performance of the product or the service from the underlying company. And how we actually confront that's just, it's an issue. So just, I want to make sure you two had context in saying that we're always thinking about, Helium's thinking about DY, the mock's thinking about it, but what we just really never want to do is have the mock becoming that arbiter of, hey, you provided bad service, you didn't deliver something on time, so we're going to block you. It's really, really bad precedent. So anyway, that's just, hopefully I covered that in good order.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
Nope, Phil's in transit again.
Yep. Go ahead, Sophie.
Just quickly to add, though, to what Scott said, that was well said, but this is things about shipping and refunds and consumer concerns are in the ethics document.
Right, because we were stressing that the ethics document is more like what the community seems to be expecting. And I think you are noticing like a shift in that document. Is that there's some things that the mock can clearly handle and has the mandate to handle, but the other are community things. And I think that was what Scott was getting at, that we were all getting at, is what is the control that we use. Like the mock has one control, the onboarding or not. And we could maybe come up with rules where we see the community complaining about some of these other things, and that becomes the level that the mock uses its power to turn on and off, but that we wouldn't necessarily make the rulings in those cases. That's what I understood.
And Jeremy, I think we're starting to get good clarity here, because I think there's really like almost two paths in terms of the mock's mandate. There's the direct mandate of the mock, where we can act unilaterally if we see that there's violations that are directly risking the network, right? And we have the audit process. But the kind of the indirect path into the mock is through the ethics document, which is really intended to be the community expectation of how manufacturers behave. Does that kind of make sense? I don't know if we can write terminology that makes it clear to the community that, so the ethics document, well, first off, I think we had to write the ethics document because there was no written reference of expectation, right? So we wrote the ethics document as a way to at least get in writing what the general expectations of manufacturers are, much more broadly than the strict, kind of protect the network mandate of the mock. But to earlier points, like the mock is not necessarily actively policing every manufacturer's on the ethics front. But if the community raises ethics violation issues, they raise them to the mock, and then the mock may look at that and decide to act on behalf of the community to use our hammer, which is still, unfortunately, the only thing we really have.
Yeah, that's essentially what
Does that kind of make sense and seem viable to people?
Yeah, 100%. We should just write that at the top of the ethics doc.
Right. So the mock is not going to police the ethics doc, but if the community observes and presents compelling kind of evidence to the mock of ethics violations, the mock will review that and potentially use its authority to act, which is what we did in the case of Copac.
Yep. Yeah, agree. I think we just need to write this on the top of the ethics doc, and I will volunteer to do that.
I'm kind of liking this idea. This thing that I always try to talk about, like in jurisprudence scenarios, we are talking governance, right? Is that I'm often very uncomfortable being the judge, the jury, and the executioner in any scenario. And I think the whole network agrees, at least from a decentralized point. We never want one party to be, really would rather the market and many other forces to solve this. It's a blockchain, right? But if we are going to have power, I do feel uncomfortable being the investigator and the decider. And I would like to see more things where evidence is presented towards us and we have to make a decision using our wisdom. But like when we get into tracks where we go in into investigative phases ourselves, it gets really slippery, and there's a lot of personal biases that get involved, where you just start going down a track trying to prove a case that you think is already there. And that's different from trying to weed out the truth. So I'm kind of liking this idea. Nick, what do you've got?
Tyranny is just so much more efficient. That's the real problem. No. So what I was thinking was this idea that Sophie had of putting at the top of the document. I think it's super cool. We're all here and we're all paying attention to it. I don't think the 400,000 hotspot owners are more than 1% of them are going to read it or know about it or pay attention to it. So I think one thing that we might do as part of the ethics piece or the suggestions or the requirements for the manufacturers to ship is some kind of agreement from them to print something like that on either their website or in the product that says, you are part of a permissionless network. This carries higher risks than normal. You should expect delays, et cetera, so that we're inserting into the sales process a little bit of friction that also protects both the manufacturers and kind of the community in general from kind of knowing what you're getting into. To Scott's point, like I hadn't thought about how important it is to remain permissionless and decentralized. I'd always thought like, let's just fix the problem, but maybe there's a way to insert into that sales process or that kind of onboarding process into Helium, onboarding in the sense of a customer finding out about Helium and buying a hotspot and all the rest of it. Like, hey, you should know what you're getting into. And this is unlike probably any other project you've ever touched. It's not our responsibility to do that, but man, I think that'd be a pretty cool thing for us to do to help educate people who are coming into this world of decentralization.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it sounds like we're resolving around there. I'm just sensitive of time. Actually, I think Christina, you're our moderator, so I don't have to keep kicking.
No worries. Yeah, we can move on to the next thing. We have a few other things on our agenda. This is one that Sophie had added. If you want to kind of
One more thing. Sorry
yeah.
to interrupt, Christina. I just want to make sure, as far as all these, Sophie, you had kind of volunteered to add some of the language in, just in terms of what Brad said, what Nick said. Are you okay to, is that all that captured? I just want to make sure, because I think those are both really, really excellent points, and I want to make sure those get integrated into the doc.
Yep. My only, I guess my question here is, well, I'll take it from the recording.
Okay, and there's some notes in the, I
Yeah.
put a couple things, and Clarissa put some stuff in the chat too, so thank you.
So I guess, Christina, I'll just talk about this Bobcat thing. Just to be mindful of time, I really, let's just spend 5 minutes on it. Basically, you guys can read it. They got through a second product without an audit or proposal. They changed their CPU, their RAM, which we don't require an audit, but they also changed their radio. We have rules that say that anything that requires a new FCC certification requires a second audit and second proposal. I am a bit surprised that this wasn't flagged when it came in. This could have been while I was talking to them. Doesn't really matter how it happened. Let's just assume everybody acted with best of intentions. But I think that we probably need for them to backdate their audit and proposal, just because another manufacturer is complaining that Bobcat didn't follow the same process.
And just to add also, because I added this to the mock channel, but I received like a follow-up email that they had sent in their second model hotspot to in August. I think it went to Lewis. So I don't know, there is no like HIP 19 for it, but I don't know if anybody took a look at it at any point.
Right.
Yeah, well, we do have a published sort of audit standard, which is if you change any of the following items,
Right.
new audit is required. So I feel it's well within our power to say, look, that's what's supposed to happen. And it could be that we have something simple as like, oh, you've been shipping units to Lewis. Well, did you know it's supposed to now go to Sophie?
Yeah,
it could be.
I guess we missed this. I didn't realize they switched radios on us. I didn't know they switched from our older chipset to the newer chipset. I thought they had always been using the newer chipsets, but I guess not.
Oh yeah, no, I've known personally they've been using the 1301 based
In the beginning,
for sure.
okay.
Yeah.
So if there's no
Cool.
objections, Christina will and I will handle making them get back up to date.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
so I guess essentially just reminding manufacturers, yes, this is supposed to be the process. If you upgrade CPU and RAM and radio, any one of those supposedly is supposed to trigger an audit. And it is our fault that we somehow missed it. And supposedly Bobcat was supposed to be involved, but that's expected. Go ahead, Felipe.
If you upgrade RAM, they don't have to reapply, only if they downgrade, right?
That's right.
Yeah, good question. Right.
No, that's right. If they upgrade just RAM, no.
Yeah.
But if they
You
do
upgrade
anything that
RAM.
requires an FCC or other
If I
certification.
recall correctly, yeah, upgrading RAM and storage did not grant for a new audit. If they downgrade RAM or storage, it's required. And any change to CPU and any change to radio required.
Yes, and that is the over thing is that if any changes happen, like if their storage is an EMMC model and they change that type or anything that requires a new certification for radio, like FCC, they have to go through a second audit.
Hey, just along those lines, I love the idea of trying to make the manufacturers do more of the work than the MOC. Like on the summary document, where we show where each audit status is, manufacturer is, can we add some columns there where they actually have to kind of put in their FCC grant license? Because that would make it really easy to see if they've made a change that required a new certification, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I don't want to add burden on us to do that, but
Yeah.
is there a way that you can make the manufacturers keep that updated themselves, like just restricting access to those columns to the manufacturer or something like that?
I think that's a good idea. I think we'll figure out how to do that outside of this meeting.
And I like that as well, because then the community can click on, and it works for Europe too, right? These are all public docs. If the community wants to go really look at the test results of their, RF performance test, they can go track that down. It's on the unit itself. You go, but this way you don't have to buy one to look at it.
Yeah, I think, Christina, are you working on a public facing doc where manufacturers have to put in their information, incorporation and stuff?
Yeah, so we have it's like the public diligence process doc that I think has been like on the mock channel. I've emailed it to a few people as well. And the idea for that is just that we have like public information that's all publicly available, that the manufacturers just answering all those questions that are like KYC questions, and then uploading their articles of incorporation. And we're only asking them to do like stuff that's already publicly available. We're not asking anybody to like send their passport or anything like that. That's, private information. But the idea behind that is it will all populate to a spreadsheet where the community can then go look like, oh, okay, they've never shipped anything before, or they have shipped, this is what they've manufactured before, just so it's more like visibility to it.
Might be a good thing to add the radio certifications, and
Yes.
you can like trigger an automatic reminder to them.
Brad? Oh, never mind. So you had your hand up.
I already commented before.
Yeah.
I'm not good with the hand thing, if you guys haven't.
Yeah.
So, making sure everybody gets input in,
You have to put a drain resistor so that eventually just falls.
Exactly.
Are we done with Bobcat? We got the next thing going on. What's up next?
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing is Jeremy, did you want to do a brief 5G update for everybody?
Yeah, let's just talk about what that is. This is specifically like we're going to have to start doing some 5G audits eventually. And we've been meeting, DY's been meeting with Freedom Fi and some other potential 5G manufacturers, and we need to find up an audit process for the mock to audit other manufacturers. And so we're just learning really how the 5G stuff might work. It's not quite on the blockchain yet, and so it's a little hard to adopt the standard that we say, hey, what is here's the standards you're going to need to meet in order to operate on the 5G blockchain, when it's not quite there. So we're trying to come up with a process of what we think it will, an audit process which will cover enough to make certain that when the 5G actually lands in the blockchain, our audit process will make certain that it's that the hotspot will be able to perform. So a lot of it is just learning some of the 5G terminology and learning new things and breaking assumptions I've personally had about 5G. So as we get closer to that, we clearly want the mock to be all in on understanding this, so we can say, yes, this is the standard we're going to use for IP 19 compliance for 5G, but it's still ongoing. Any words you have? Is Scott still here? He had to jump, didn't he? He always has to. Sophie, you've been involved with that. Do you have any?
No, I mean, I
insight?
think I feel pretty good that we have a a path forward to understanding this. So, but I'm pretty sure by the time we have our next meeting in a month, we'll definitely have much more of an idea of what it'll take.
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted, I think maybe by next meeting, just to have the initial audit process shared with this committee would be great. But honestly, just want to make sure that, the mock's kind of up to date on the discussions that are happening outside on how we think about audits and bring on like this next batch. I mean, some of these manufacturers are going to be overlapping from existing relationships, some will be completely new, but I just want to make sure everybody here has as much context as possible, because we want lots of input and opinions on how we think about, just kind of evolving to the next network.
I actually do want to add something about the 5G conversations. What we decided, or what we are proposing in our last meeting with Freedom Fi, was that we start off fairly small with a group of manufacturers that are, that we know can do 5G, and work with them to discover an audit process and also how it's going to work with the blockchain. And so we do have some technical first steps, which are, we're going to try to stand up the same process, the same 5G network thing. I'm really confused with the terminology. It's called an orchestrator. We're going to try to stand that up in a AWS EC2 and try to work with that. And that will happen before this next meeting, and we'll have a sense of what all of this will take.
Yeah, actually, for disclosure on, and again, want input from this committee, but as far as the ones that have already reached out with interest or have some potential capabilities, so beyond Freedom Fi, we're looking at what I kind of qualify as like this, again, like the beta group. So before we open up to any manufacturer coming in, Bobcat, Seed, GenXCom, and Rack, in addition to Freedom Fi, are the kind of tentative like beta producers for 5G miners / hotspots. If anybody has an opinion on any of the existing ones, or if any others that should be considered for this beta group before we open it up more broadly, please weigh in. Nick, what's up?
Yeah, forgive my ignorance. Is anyone in this group super experienced with 5G? I'm assuming some of you are, and I just don't know it, but does anyone like totally have their SHIT together with this, or are we all? Okay.
No, but
actually,
maybe in a month.
If you do, just like put your hand up so I can see it, because I may have a mini solution. Okay, so nobody. So I just did this long conversation with 2 Discord members who have been deploying 5G stuff for years, Rollinson and I think Elmo on Discord. It's up on YouTube. If you guys need a primer on 5G and what it is and what CBRS is and how the whole thing works and what you're going to need, it's an hour, and it was super helpful for me because I knew nothing about it. I know some of you are way into it and it's going to be way beneath you, but if you're kind of too embarrassed to ask, like, hey, what is 5G 5 gig or whatever your question is, it's a great starter kind of video.
Is that, yeah, if that's a YouTube, definitely just, I mean, I'd just pop that right in the committee channel regardless.
Okay.
Yeah, put your link up there. That'd be good.
And some, yeah, some of the
We'll do now.
the terminology, the thing, I mean, I'm honestly just getting up to speed, like even just understanding like the settlement service of like kind of almost like what the router serves and LoRaWAN and what the equivalent is there. Like I'm absolutely just getting up to speed on it. This is going to be related to how we think about expanding this committee in terms of having a little bit more 5G expertise in here. Related to yesterday's conversation, just so this group knows, we're probably going to put together, so not a committee so much as a working group, just having like some 5G like domain expertise and how we think about like how it's going to connect and talk to the blockchain. So figuring out how we loop some folks in there. And I would imagine that some people out of that working group may end up coming in to support us on the actual mock.
So Scott, this there's a topic in the back of my mind, is creating like good, usable technical training and collateral for the community. Is that something that you see as inside the DY's, something like if somebody wanted to do, would the DY maybe fund it with a grant?
Yeah,
Because I feel like there's if you spend time in Discord and you're fairly kind of technically adept, you can navigate. But and the Helium site's actually fairly good, but there's not necessarily like a golden reference of what I would call consumer friendly training materials, kind of like from a lot of maybe what I did back at TI, creating material that actually takes somebody step by step through, okay, here's, all this kind of stuff. So I'm just curious if that's out there. If it's, I don't know of great resources for it. There's some stuff outside of Helium that's okay. But if that's something that the DY would see as a priority and would possibly fund with grants,
Yep.
because I feel like when we get to 5G, there's been enough questions about, around the community about LoRa and IoT. It didn't matter so much to some degree because they could just power the thing up in one mind. But now with 5G and Freedom Fi, I feel like there's going to be a flood of misunderstanding and people getting this stuff and be really confused what they bought and how it's supposed to work, right?
I am all for, again, this is going to be Clarissa and Jess kind of helping to drive forward on this. I am absolutely for grants that are going to fund educational content and like all different aspects of that, especially as we start to go beyond LoRaWAN into something that is going to be unfamiliar to a lot of folks in the community. So,
okay. I might know some people who may be interested, or maybe we can start to reach out to people who we think could create such content and let them know that this is an option that's open.
Yeah, if you want to start making some introductions, those can go to, I'd say Clarissa, Jess, me, they can include all of us on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bradley, if you want to reach out to us and we'll set up a meeting to talk more about that. But on both fronts, yes, it's part of our roadmap is to help with some educational content and material to help grantees walk through the process and coming into the grant system to make it a lot easier for them. It's definitely one of our top priorities moving forward. And to get back to something that Nick said, I've talked to Elmo also, and he's a great resource on 5G and has a lot of really brilliant ideas coming forth. And I think he has some grant projects coming up related to 5G. So looking forward to hearing what he comes up with. So that should be around the corner. And yeah, maybe there should be more of a conversation with him and loop him into something.
Yeah, maybe he's a great candidate to actually, create this kind of, Nick, maybe you're even a candidate, like, you're already doing, like, I think YouTube videos and stuff are, they're all good, but like maybe just make it a tick up in formality and have a landing page on the DY site for like core, this is like the reference material on some core training, right? And customer education.
Scott, you mentioned you rattled off a bunch of vendors that have plans for 5G, and I know of some as well. I'm not sure if I captured everybody. Can you rattle those off again, please?
Yeah, sure. Tentatively, so Freedom Fi already in flow since they're actually creating a lot of the code.
Yes.
Bobcat.
Yes, those I'm aware of. They are actively working on a product that they're supposed to announce soon. It's in collaboration with Freedom Fi, actually.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like collaboration to get the impression I get. So Bobcat, Seed, Gen XCOM,
Yes.
and then Rack.
You're forgetting Nebra.
Oh, so that's interesting. Well, so one is that I think that everybody except Nebra, however we pronounce it. I don't know if they were looking to use the Magma core, which I think we may end up defaulting towards.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess the question, and this might be a question for the committee, is are we okay to open up? Are we okay to open up where Nebra's had a lot of community pushback? Do we think that this has anything to do with them being part of the foray into 5G? I think that, one thing I would say to Nebra's credit is that they have been like great contributors to DY from like a donation perspective, but at the same time, I want to bear in mind the fact of there's still a lot of people unhappy with some of the practices. So I want to make sure we're just trying to be mindful. I don't know if this is something that the committee needs to decide, if it's something that DY makes a call on. That's just a sensitive one. So
yeah, I don't think this really matters too much in here. We're just trying to find good technical partners to start with. We don't want to make it too big.
No,
and it's
that's
just we're specifically talking about how to make the audit process, right? So it's not like we're saying, oh, only these people are going to be the final 5G.
No. I think that it's fine. I mean, put it this way, if we're just talking about kind of like audit and just looping them into the discussion, I think that that's perfectly fine. And then again, just letting the market decide based on like everybody, all of those performance to date. So we've got, most of those have already been active in the community. GenXCom will be newer, but I think they do have the capabilities.
Yeah, and then there's another one, but I can't disclose them yet. So,
Okay.
So that brings it up to 6, I guess. So.
Okay, that still feels like a manageable size. I just don't want
Yeah.
us to all of a sudden have 50 applications.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and in my sort of opinion, is trying to go back to like thinking what Helium had to do in the beginning. Like when they made their first hotspot, they had to come with a proof of concept to get it going. And so they picked one vendor and made the hotspot with them. And it wasn't like they're saying, okay, this will be the only vendor and we will make hotspots forever, right? We're in the same process here. We're, as the committee now, kind of trying to work on the audit process and how to make certain, get manufacturers capable of it. We're just looking for a few seed ones here so that we can test with different manufacturers to see if our audit process is completely off base or is actually heading towards what we all think it's going to work.
Are we all good on that? Ready to move on to the next agenda item?
Yes.
Okay, so the next two kind of are both about radio certifications. I don't know, Patrick, if you want to take what you're
Yes.
talking about, if you want to
Yes.
for a second.
Sure. So I was alerted by through our Semtech China sales team weekly that I guess the China, what is it, the state radio regulatory state, it's like state radio regulation China or something like that. They approached both the Easy Lincoln, aka Bobcat, and RAC Wireless, and basically asked them to stop selling Helium gateways on the 490 megahertz band in China, because I guess by the end of this year, all crypto mining is banned in China, and that not only affects blockchain, but obviously Helium as well. So Easy Lincoln apparently has stopped selling quite a while ago to the China market. RAC is stopping as well. And actually our sales team is actively telling their customers that you shouldn't sell these products anymore in China. So that of course doesn't affect selling outside of China, but it's the 490 megahertz band in China. That's our product. That's the problematic one. So.
Is it 470 or 490?
Or maybe it's 470, sorry.
It's 470.
Yeah.
You don't have the luxury of having the agenda in front of us here, but it actually had the State Radio Regulation of China Agency spelled out and all these other things that you're trying to memorize. Yeah, is there anything for us to particularly do? I mean,
I don't think there's anything. It's just good to know, I'll just keep an eye on it and how it goes. But yeah, there's nothing we can do at this point. So.
I have a personal opinion. I think this will probably be reversed. I've seen that China, the Republic, we should say, has gone back and forth on this issue several times. So it may be the new year they switch.
Who knows? Yeah.
We did skip one agenda item before this though, which I think is something we do need to ask.
Yeah, I was trying to like wrap them in together because it is about the radio certifications. So I guess one thing is are we wanting to require the radio certifications from China, just kind of branching off of what Patrick was saying? And then also this has come up a few times where we've had hotspot manufacturers who have been approved, more towards the beginning, but they've come back with other radio certifications to like now bring back to the mock to like vote on and to like take a look at. Do we want to say like you have to have everything at front, or is there going to be like a admin fee if we have them come back later? There were a few, I think we had 2 manufacturers within the last month who sent one radio certification and then like 2 days later sent me another one. And then 3 days later was like, oh, we're going to have this one next week. So just in the interest of kind of saving everybody's time, what is everybody's thoughts about that?
So I think we have an existing process basically saying that part of the audit and the voting procedure is we often will defer, we'll vote and we'll say, so long as you later get your radio certification in these countries you have told us about, you are approved. Like no? Sophie has it. What was it supposed to be?
We decided 2 meetings ago that we were no longer going to accept pending radio certifications for this exact reason.
Okay,
Because it
so
needs a
they
lot
have
of
to submit
time.
the certification and
They
then
have
we
to.
vote after.
Yeah, they have to say ahead of time what they plan to get. Then we vote once they get all of those things. It also makes sure that they get all of those things. We've got a couple of manufacturers who it's been like September, we did their paperwork. You know, they should have some fire under their butts to get it done, as well as saving our time. We have, I don't know, maybe 108 manufacturers right now. It's a lot to manage when people are coming back with additional things. That said, I do feel that like if a vendor has gone through the process, they've gotten one certification, and then they come back 4 months later and they say, oh, now we're going to get FCC because we sold enough to afford to get our tests or whatever. They can also, we can put them through the process again, and perhaps they go through the whole thing again or some part of it. So, I mean, we should have, just to be nice to people, like it's, we should allow them to get certifications later.
Yeah, I mean, of the opinion, when you add a new radio, go for a new market, it's kind of like, well, you're selling a new model almost.
Right.
We could go that far.
Mhm.
And we kind of have a precedence for that. We're gonna go somewhere in between. So I think, yeah, just saying, oh, no, nothing is required. That's clearly not true.
Right.
But like, I think the question of if there's a fee is really about, the fee is designed so that it actually allows us to do the audits faster and actually pay a lab or person
Mhm.
to do the auditing process, right? So if there needs to be a fee, it should cover whatever onus it causes.
Yeah, I think there should be I'll propose that we charge a fee. We charge $3,000 for an audit. My proposal is if they come back several months later with a new radio thing that we all have to look at their certifications and say yes or no, it's $1,000 for a radio fee additional.
Yeah, I mean,
Can we raise
as
that
a
to
starting number.
2,000? Like, let's make it worth DUI's time, or worth the time.
Sure. We're talking not about doing a full audit. We're talking about looking at the paperwork.
Yeah, but to your point, sorry to not raise my hand. I think with this stuff, it's only going to get bigger. There's only going to be more manufacturers. There's only going to be more stuff in there. You got to make it so that there's a filter on there that encourages them to do it correctly the first time. And if they don't do it correctly the first time, if they miss something, that whoever is doing the work is compensated. It's completely not fair to be like, oh yeah, you missed something, cool, we'll hook it up for you. That's not okay.
I
Yeah.
can think of an example case, like Patrick discovers that oh, they didn't specify this one subband and didn't do the power test. Remember those days when that's happened, where they've gone in and gotten a certification and they didn't cover all of the things they should have covered, and that takes time for us to go in and look.
That's right. Okay. I think 2,000 is also fine.
I'm fine with that. These manufacturers, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they're supposedly raking in.
Anyone disagree?
I think we have a quorum enough. We're missing Phil. I don't think we have enough of us. I'm good.
I'm good. I agree.
I agree too.
Patrick Burbley?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Great. All right, Christina's writing out our thing, so I'll just help push us forward. So we've done radios and China. Yeah, does the mock one have a place for the community to submit questions for the monthly meeting agenda? So there is a form post. Christina has been voluntold.
I volunteer
Sort through the
myself.
questions. Okay. Just sort through the questions and help filter out and say, that's out of the scope of the mock, or this is worth adding to the agenda. That sounds great to me. I get a lot of questions directly in the DY channel. You see me try to pop in when I'm not burnt out. and having an outlet. One thing I'm noticing a lot in the community is having outlets, people to jump in and say, me too, I see this, is really important. A lot of people's frustrations is just like, are they being heard? So having this specific funnel for the mock, I'm all for it. People will always go outside the bounds and try to contact us directly. But if DY can manage that, we have DY resources to help manage that. It's a load off of our backs, I believe. What have you got, Scott?
So I'm thinking about the fact of, so there's number one, if there's a form that doesn't allow for dialogue, it's very much one way and they wait for an answer and there can't be, like live follow-up. If we set up a separate channel, then that just becomes, who is actually the person that is constantly managing that channel that's there to help direct traffic and like making sure that any questions that have been covered there. I mean, it just, that a channel could get spammed. So I just want to, there's pros and cons to all this. I think we definitely should have some outlet and we can experiment with things that, people can, this is a lot of volunteer work. So I want to make sure people actually have like the capacity and time. Christina, a lot of this will fall on you to kind of be a traffic manager. So just being mindful of how do we make sure we're closing all the loops on this and how do we make sure that we're creating like the opportunities for dialogue. Brad?
Well, I was just going to maybe clarify from my own understanding and maybe just repropose what I think we already are doing. Like, I think you have the form to submit a question, that we do have to monitor and kind of, create responses to. And then we have a quarterly community call. So if somebody wants dialogue, then, once a quarter, we have a live community call. And, with the MOC, isn't that kind of what we're already doing? Or do we need a third option that takes overhead from us to deal with, is the question.
I think that, I'm of the opinion that let's think about, because I think a channel is not the best place to start because it's just going to be an absolute waterfall of content coming in. I think that maybe the way to do that is, yes, let's keep redoing our town hall on some regular cadence where there's a form of questions that come in and the opportunity for dialogue is in the town hall, but we have that form that ideally we can push out those things of, we can address things to the form asynchronously too. If
The questions into the form should drive, we should have an FAQ page.
Yeah.
And, if it's not already addressed in the FAQ, then we can, if there's enough validity to the question and, kind of community interest in the question, then we just add it to the FAQ. So yeah, I just like keeping it to the two options and not opening up a third that requires constant overhead in me.
That seems totally sensible.
Nick.
I think it's a fantastic idea to have a place for people to submit the questions. Is there a place right now that people can submit questions? I'm not sure of it, where it's super easy to find. Okay, my guess is no. So what I'm thinking is with these questions is we don't look at them as, hey, we're going to answer every one of your questions. But if we get 600 questions about subject XYZ in this meeting, that might be a super good thing to start the meeting off or to finish it off with, which from a marketing standpoint would just be like, oh, you should watch the mock meeting so that you get that one really important question answered and you kind of get the rest of the details of what's going on with everybody working. It doesn't mean that because the question gets submitted, we have to answer it, and especially if it's just one question out of hundreds, but it'd be super cool to kind of help us shape the discussion and shape the conversation as to what people are super curious about. And then also have a way to say like, hey, no one was asking about this. Why do we need to spend time on it? So.
And my thing was, I misread this. I thought this was questions for the town hall. I do now see it was actually questions for this meeting, right? And I think I see what you're getting at now, Scott, which is that, okay, we take an input and we have this question, and because this meeting is not interactive, now we have a situation where we're taking someone's question, they've had to already condense down what they wanted to ask into a question form, and then we have the possibility that we misinterpret their question. So it'd be very one-sided, I think, to have us read out our answers to questions submitted to this meeting. I can see the danger that just nothing will get solved there. There'll be two levels of telephone in there. So I'm just acknowledging I misread. I thought this was for the that we're going to continue to do the town hall. So my idea here is that definitely keeping the town hall up is important, but as to whether it goes in this meeting, I don't know.
You know what? Perfect is the enemy of good. It's better for us to experiment and try something and see how it goes and iterate rather than just constantly looking for what is the ideal solution. I'd rather just stand things up and just kind of say, okay, we learned that this is not the right thing, or it is. But I think it's just better to kickstart things and learn live. Sorry, Sophie, you had your hand up. I didn't mean to jump in front of you and cut the line.
Oh, no, that's okay. I could just leave my hand up all day too. So I think, we run out of time always in this meeting. So perhaps I agree with this, two levels of telephone doesn't make sense for this meeting, but for town hall, like we should just get on a monthly town hall schedule and answer questions.
Yeah, I'm definitely cool with that. I know it puts more burden on us, but there should be some regular schedule, where the public interacts with us directly. It's super helpful.
Also, I mean, for the town hall, like there's 6 or 7 of us, like people could be on every other month.
Yeah. Yeah, but I like the idea too, Nick. I think we can just like use it as a gauge. Like, oh my goodness, there are 6,000 questions on this one topic. Absolutely with it. So
I can already anticipate what that question is.
yeah, I know what they will be. At least I think I do.
I think I do too.
Cool.
All right, so Jeremy, you have the last 2 things.
Yeah, I got last 2. So I just want to give an update on what's going on with Codex. So whether you knew it or not, we voted on the large orders. I hope thanks everyone who participated in there. I think Phil must be on vacation, so that's maybe why we didn't see anything. We actually did deny some orders, based on at least 3 of us saying, yeah, this does not look good. Generally, overall, a lot of these are going to be approved. There's still some screw ups that Codex made, either that didn't provide some of the information requested. So I'm going to rule those as like, well, look, we asked several times. You did not give us the customer name. We're just going to say we couldn't possibly vote on those. I think a lot of you marked no. I'm going to kind of make an executive decision for those ones that are totally screwed up, where it's like, you didn't even provide the customer name or the address, and we asked you to do that. These have to be denied. Of course, it could probably come back later, but so I'm going to be taking on the process of merging what exactly that means technically into the onboarding server with Helium's help, so we can onboard those and be hopefully done with this process. It's been real stressful on me to try to do it. It also explains too why, like, hey, when you ask the mock to step in and take over some of these things, like go a little bit beyond the banhammer and go into this pseudo banhammer, is really hard, and that's why I don't want to hopefully do it again. So that's my update on Codex. No real decisions there. Thanks everyone for tolerating my weak attempts to really push us to keep doing that. It's been kind of slow. And I have one more final item, which is a general question. Like, we've been trying to understand that we want to do more synchronous stuff on our channel. How is that going? Is everybody cool with that? Any people? We have a few people here who are kind of like, I'm going to call them the task drivers, which is important to have. I'm not necessarily good at that. And we have those of us trying to vote. Is the async vote going okay? Are there things we can improve?
I think people could vote more.
Vote more.
Like, yeah.
I think we just need more pinging. Like, if anybody has a thing that needs to be voted on, I'm okay getting those pings. Hey, vote on this, and then maybe a few days later, hey, just checking in. It's low volume for me. Christina,
I'm more than happy to also jump in and bug all of you if needed.
I think this is my way of saying I appreciate being bugged, even if it doesn't seem like it. That's my personal opinion. But
yeah, bug me too. If I'm delinquent and missing, don't. You're not annoying me. I'm just distracted.
Okay, sounds good.
There's too many of these communication platforms, man. I'm sorry. It's like Slack, Discord, WhatsApp. It's like
Same here. Hey, Jeremy, and kind of, I don't know, group in general. I think that one of the things I'm seeing is that there's so much information flow coming in that I would like to suggest that kind of a general rule is that if there's any doubt, there is no doubt. Like if they don't cross the I's and dot the T's, we shouldn't make a ton of time to be like, hey, on page 17 and line 4, like you missed, like that's on them. If they don't do it, I would suggest that we just like, hey, if you don't do it right, it just doesn't get done. That's the deal. 'Cause that
Yeah,
seems
I
like it's
am
taking an
definitely
awful lot of
leaning
stress
towards
on
that.
you to try and interpret what they're doing. It's like, no, it's on them to get it right.
Yeah, and I heartily agree, and I've been able to like comfort myself on the ethics of like, look, I think I've pretty made it really clear several times. You manufacture very technical. I'm very technical. I think we both know how to do this correctly. If you can't do that, there's no worries on my end. Like I can clearly point to where you failed, and we just have limited time. So it's not
Yeah,
that
if you can't open the gate, you can't come on the playground. That's the deal.
I love these analogies. Cool. Do we technically have a 90-minute meeting, or did we just go 15 minutes over? Are we 15 under?
We're right on time.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's set
wow.
for an hour and 15 minutes.
Cool. Well, if anybody has any last important issues, I'm amazed we actually made it on time. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, I think we're good. One thing I did see in the chat is before Felipe had to jump out, he did ask back when we were talking about the, he said, can we approve a manufacturer to only sell to China under the scenario when we were discussing earlier with the issue with the radio certifications? So I don't know if that's something we just want to discuss in the chat, but I just wanted to point out because he's not here.
Yeah, we'll leave it on him to be the whip. And I mean this in like the classical American political sense. Is like, hey, I have an issue that's important. Paying people. Yeah, my quick impression is, I want to stay out of the legal things like whether you can sell a radio, but like if you can show that it technically meets the specs, then my approval is yes, you can do it. Please don't do anything illegal, but I can't stop it. Cool. I guess we'll have to do that one. I think.
So I think that's it, unless anybody else has anything else.
Nope.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Clarissa and
Thank you.
Jeff,
Good
for
boogie.
joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. See ya.
Have a happy holiday if we don't see each other again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
New year.